Wow, this place sure is beautiful. Welcome back to Miss Teacher Tube with Mrs. Leon. We're going to start our boats and buoyancy unit today, and I can't think of a more beautiful place to start that unit. In this unit, we're going to be looking at how things float on water, how they're buoyant. What exactly is buoyancy? How come some things float and some things don't? What makes something float? And how on earth do we get things that don't float to actually float on water? It's pretty incredible when you think about it. And we're going to be studying it in great detail through our boats and buoyancy unit. So let's get started. Welcome back. These are the materials that we're going to be testing today just to see how buoyant they are. Now remember, the more buoyant something is, the more it floats to the surface or sits on top of the water. I have a feeling some of these are going to be sinkers. I'm going to walk you through our materials. So very first one we have is a penny. Pennies are made of copper, which is a metal. We don't really have pennies in circulation anymore, but we're going to use one for this experiment. This is sidewalk chalk. So it's big and everyone's used this outside or encountered it at some point. Next is a crayon, just like all the crayons we use in my classroom. This big piece of rock is obsidian. This is a very special type of rock from Mexico. It used to be hot molten lava and it cooled down. First Nations people in Mexico made weapons out of this. Very cool piece of history right there. But for our purpose, we're going to use it as a rock. Next, I've cut a little piece of styrofoam from a styrofoam cup. We have a large paper clip. Oh, we've already experienced these before in our other science unit. An eraser, just like the erasers we use in class. I have a glass marble. So this is very, very round and shiny, and I'm sure we've all experienced marbles. Whoop, wants to roll away on me. Next we have a pencil. I put a full pencil. This is a cork. Then we're going to test a string. A very well-used dishcloth. It's dry. This is a giant nail from my garage. So it's made out of metal and it's quite large, just so you can see it better. And last but not least, we have this beautiful feather that was donated to us from the after-school care. So we'll give all of those materials a test and see how buoyant they are. We'll see if they sink or if they float. Welcome back. I hope everyone's made their predictions already because we're going to get started with the experiment. If you haven't, we should pause this video for you, give you a few minutes. I'm assuming you're already done, so I'm going to get started. Here is my little basin of water, and I'm going to get started by putting the penny in it first. Now, I'm using a glass bowl, so you can hear it hit the bottom. If it doesn't float and it's a complete sinker, you'll hear it. Oh, sinker. So the penny did not float. Next is the chalk. Oh, it's a little bit fizzy, but it's definitely near the top of the water, almost completely at the top of the water. So that would be a floater. The crayon. Oh, all the way to the bottom. So that one's a sinker. My beautiful obsidian. Definitely a sinker. That would be the rock. Styrofoam. Oh, look at that. Can you see that there? Definitely a floater. The paperclip. It's a sinker. Mind you, remember we were talking about surface tension before? If I'm really careful and I have the right kind of cup, I could probably float that. That it's not a floater. It's definitely a sinker. Eraser. Oh, all the way to the bottom. Definitely a sinker. My beautiful glass marble. Sinker. Next, we have the pencil. Floater. The next one is the cork. Definitely a floater. The next one is the string. Definitely a floater. The dishcloth. Well, it starts out floating, but it very quickly absorbs all the water it possibly can, and down it goes. So I'm thinking a sinker. You wouldn't want to build a boat out of this. That would be a pretty sad looking boat. I'm thinking definitely a sinker. The metal nail. Ooh, that hit the bottom pretty quickly. Definitely a sinker. It's pretty heavy. And then the last thing was our beautiful feather that was donated. If I could just get it off my wet finger. Oh, look at that. It's a very nice little floater. Definitely a floater. Okay. Well, that certainly concludes our floating and sinking. Make sure that you record your observations of what you've seen and see how accurate your predictions were. See you next time. Wow, look at those waves. This unit's going to be a lot of fun. So far we've learned quite a bit about what sinks and what floats for materials, but there is so much more to learn. For example, the boat that I'm on, it's made out of metal. We learned that that nail just dropped right to the bottom during our experiment. How on earth is this thing floating? We'll discover that later. See you next time.